Hello, everybody. This series on collective trauma and transformation kicked off last week with a conversation among mental health professionals and trauma survivors from underrepresented communities. They spoke of their experiences of loss and transformation, primarily from a Latinx and LGBTQ+ perspective. But the discussion also featured reflections from many of our participants who identify from other communities, African American, Asian American, and others. When the series began earlier this month, it was just a few weeks after yet another mass shooting, this time in Texas. And we're coming up the 1-year anniversary of the Uvalde massacre. And yet again, another wrongful murder of a Black man whose life mattered. This one took place where I live, in the New York City subway. And despite these horrors, we still go forward. We're not healed, but perhaps with some tools to integrate these adversities and losses, we're able to go on and without numbing down completely. Our speakers last week shared how they use creative expression, acts of service, and spirituality to navigate a pathway forward. Psychologist Manuel Zamarripa suggested that collective trauma requires not only self-care, but also collective care. And Isaias Hernandez, a 20-something climate justice activist who manages his own eco-anxiety and grief, urged us to break from doom scrolling and the importance of connecting with the hope keepers. Today, Dr. Albert Wong will guide us in how to care for our bodies that hold so much of this trauma. And I'll say more about him in just a bit. The majority of us here are zooming in from the United States, also known as Turtle Island by Native Americans and their allies. I am in Lenapehoking, where a large city called New York is located on occupied land. Wherever you are, I ask you to join me in acknowledging Indigenous communities in North America, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. I am stating this because it's a step, a small step, to continue dismantling the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism and white supremacy. I'm very interested in knowing where all of you are. If you haven't already, please put that in the chat. In a bit, I'll be pasting a link to a website, native-land.ca, and you can check out that site to learn about locations of Indigenous people. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce today's workshop leader, Dr. Albert Wong. Dr. Wong is a leading educator and clinician in the field of somatics. He was residential staff at the Esalen Institute for 5 years, and he served as the director of somatic psychology at JFK University. He maintains a private counseling and consulting practice centered around somatic psychotherapy and is the founder of the online somatic education platform, Somatopia, and I'll be pasting a link in the chat. Dr. Wong, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much. I'm handing this off to you.
Thank you so much, Andy. Wow. I loved just hearing myself in the context of larger things, and just it gives me I don't know, I just feel in my body, which is some of what this is about, just an expansiveness of the heart. And as I'm seeing faces, I feel that too. Oh yeah, hi Rainbow. I know, gosh, it's so strange to see people with names. Sometimes there's a little bit of excitement and anxiety, but mostly excitement. And it's lovely just to see where folks are hailing from. I always like to imagine little kind of like spots of light around the world, starting to light up and connect together. I think that's one of the messages of this work is we are together, or we can, if we want to, remember our togetherness, and that can be part of what we need to heal. I think collective trauma needs collective healing, right? We need solutions at the level of group, at the level of us, at the level of we. And so we are a we. In some ways, there's the teaching and the practice that I'm going to be, supporting us in learning, but there's also us as a being and as a doing. So hopefully you'll get a chance to taste a little bit of that as well. Yeah. Just kind of landing and settling in. Out of curiosity, and Andy, you did such a lovely intro. I'm curious, who all was at the previous instantiate, like the first in the series? Like, raise your hand if you wouldn't mind. Who was here? Okay, so a number of people were. Okay, but it looks like, okay, so a number of people were. Who wasn't here? Raise your hand. Who wasn't here? So quite a few people weren't. Okay, that's totally fine. It looks like, okay, so we got a lot of people just kind of maybe fresh in on this go round. That's great. Also, so I get a feel for the space. Who here is in the helping, healing professions, like a therapist or a coach or a first responder? Or okay, so I see lots of hands and people, okay, raising their hands. Okay, so quite a few. Okay, who here is okay, those of you who can turn on your camera. Okay, thanks to those of you who can turn on your camera. Yeah, it's always lovely to see your faces. Yeah, totally. I feel happy seeing faces. It's actually one of the lessons about trauma, right? If you have kids and they're exposed to like blank faces, they actually start to go into almost a dissociative response. So sometimes just letting somebody see your face or see the friendliness of your face can be incredibly co-regulating for somebody who's in that. Okay, so there's no obligation, but yeah, it's lovely to see faces if you like. Okay, so yeah, some folks are in the healing professions. Anybody here who's an educator? I'm kind of both, a little bit of an educator or okay, so yeah, so I think there's unspoken healers, helpers all over, right? So great. Thank you for being an educator. You're on the front lines of a lot as well. Who's here mostly for your own personal learning, right? Just kind of because you are struggling with your own experiences of trauma or collective trauma. Okay, so a number of people in that camp too. Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll just share, like, you're all welcome here. You're all welcome here. Okay, wherever you are, wherever you come from, whatever brings you here, you're welcome. Out of curiosity, also, just to get a pulse of us, this is kind of like just getting a sense of we. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being like absolutely no experience whatsoever, 10 being a whole lot of experience, how much experience do you have in trauma therapy, in working with trauma, in understanding trauma? You can either put in the chat or hold up fingers, right? Yeah. So, okay, so there's a range, some 8s, some 2s, some 9s. Okay, so actually there's quite a bit of, there's a number of people who seem to have a fair amount of experience, and then some people who don't as much. Okay, that's okay. So we'll lean on some of those of you who do, and then kind of bring us all together as we, I don't know, learn as a collective, right? As we heal as a collective. Kind of. All right. And on a scale of 0 to 10, also 0 being completely no experience and 10 like expert amount of experience. Who all has experience in somatic psychology? That's body-oriented psychotherapy, working with the body almost as a guide for healing. Okay, 4, 0, 0. Okay, some zeros. So this is completely new to some people, and then some a lot of experience. Okay, Tay's got a 9 there. Okay, great. Okay, so okay, so for those of you who know more, kind of, we'll maybe this will be a little bit of a refresher, but we'll also hopefully put a new spin on things. So hopefully it'll be interesting to you. And we'll, there's that phrase, I think it's an African proverb: if you want to go fast, travel alone. If you want to go far, travel together, right? And just in terms of the mission of Reimagine, it's like, okay, we want to go far, right? We want to travel far. And I think if we go together, we'll get there, we'll be able to go further, okay? So, all right. So thank you for letting me sense you. Okay. So I frequently like to open with a little bit of poetry, but I have a little PowerPoint, and let me just pull that up and help us kind of dive in a little bit. So this is all about healing collective trauma from fragmentation to connection. You could also say from fragmentation to embodiment, okay? There's something happens during trauma where our insides fall apart. We fall into disconnection with each other, right? We fall off of our bodies almost. We separate out from ourselves. So part of what this workshop talk class is about trying to rediscover our embodiment and rediscover our interconnectedness. Okay, so so I like to start with poetry, and I have 2 little poems that I'd just invite us to sit with. And the first is almost there's this lovely author, Rupi Kaur, and if you want, you can close your eyes, but just allow the words to wash over you. And the poem goes like this: the world gives you so much pain. The world gives you so much pain. And here you are, making gold out of it. The world gives you so much pain. And here you are, making gold out of it. There is nothing purer than that. There is nothing purer than that. My guess is, yeah, hearts in the chat I can see. Yeah. So I imagine that some of you, whether you're in the helping, healing, educating professions, are in this business of helping people take their pain and spin it into gold, right? Or whether it's in your own life, taking the pain that you hold in your heart and turn it into gold. Yeah, we are all alchemists, okay? And so just honoring you for being here and showing up, doing this deep, pure work, okay? And this is another one, poem from the book Healing Words, Alexandra Vasilou. When you remember painful things from your past, when you remember painful things from your past, and when you feel empty, lonely, or heartbroken, don't run. Don't run. Look into the eyes of those memories and declare. Look into the eyes of those memories and declare, Don't visit me anymore. Don't visit me anymore. I don't belong to you. I don't belong to you. I belong to love. So, yeah. So yeah, and thanks, Barry, for that. Yeah, there was a beautiful poem. The first one was beautiful, and a great poem to use when using kintsugi as a healing tool. So this notion of like stronger at the broken places, for sure. And yeah, and just inviting folks. You know, I'll notice, I'll be tracking the chat. So yeah, what do you notice? What do you feel? Because this is about like the somatic awakening almost. So the invitation during this workshop is to notice and track your body. What do you feel as you sense the words of either the first poem or the second one? What do you feel happening inside you as you read the words, as you hear them? And you can type into the chat if you like, or just notice inside yourself. So Michelle says, and exhale. Great noticing. Oftentimes when we're in trauma, it's like, it's too much. I couldn't take that. We get stuck. Oh, I belong to love. I remember I'm love again. I'm safe. I can exhale. So thank you, Michelle. That's so true. Gayatri says, the fear that comes up, which makes us run, and the ease from surrendering and remembering the love we're made out of. Exactly. So totally, fear makes us run. That's a physical thing, right? So it's a physical thing. That's the somatic again. It makes us run. I want to run, I want to run. But actually, maybe if I remember that I'm love, I can surrender. There's a letting go that comes with that. That's almost a physical thing, right? Moving from the, sometimes they call moving from the fear or the fight or flight, right? Back into love, back into connection, right? Back into our bodies again. Okay. Peace and sacred. I absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful, Mary. Yeah, I think healing trauma is, I don't know, I think sometimes people who've been through trauma are the ones who have the closest connection with spirituality. So yeah, it's one of the hidden gifts. Releasing tension in the shoulders. Absolutely. That's just like that exhale, right? Breath gets held, tension starts during trauma, everything. Okay. But then we can release. Great, Brittany. Feeling of strength. Sometimes when that happens, our strength feels like it returns, right? Intense focus, alertness, pleasure, calm, strength. Yeah, absolutely. Be still, calm, connect with love. I feel pain. And then a way to process that pain and let it go. Absolutely, Barry. You just pointed to it. Right, so there's both the pain, the painful things here, right? And then a way to process that pain and let it go. Okay, that's the essence of healing trauma, right? Noticing the pain and then letting go, right? You know, and then sometimes there's things that happen, like the exhale, the feeling of the big yes, right? Sometimes it's a feeling of surrender, right? Hope happens, change, right? All of that stuff. Okay. Yeah. How do you let go and surrender? That's the big question. That's the $1 million question. Okay. We'll talk about that. We'll go over kind of that process because it's one thing just to say, and then like, but surrender now, surrender, right? Yeah, how can you do that? Yeah. Yeah. Just that phrase, don't worry, I am loved. A mixed state, sympathetic and then stillness. Perfect. Okay. So some of you, yeah. Andy, can you post the first poem again? Yeah, we can get all of that to you. Rupi Kaur's, there's nothing purer than this. Okay. So yeah. So so there's a lot of knowing that's already here. And what I'm going to invite us to think about, because we want to talk about healing collective trauma. But before we think about the collective, we want to like, well, what is trauma, period? what is trauma, right? Then we can figure out, okay, how can we heal collective trauma? So we're going to kind of slow down a little and ask that first question: what is trauma? Okay, and on some level, the poems kind of point to trauma a little bit, and maybe a little bit of the resolution. But I'm just going to invite us to ask the question: what is trauma? And let you type into the chat what your thoughts about trauma is, or what you think trauma might be. What is trauma? At least in your thoughts or conceptualization. What is trauma for you? Some of you might know, and take your time. Repressed pain, absolutely. Yeah. There's so much kind of pain that is repressed, suppressed. It's interesting, oppressed, right? There's like, you can think of things at the individual level, but at the systemic level, right? Kind of also, right? Shattering of the sense of the self. Like, yeah, I love that word, shattered self. Repressed pain, shattered self. That's so descriptive. Yeah. Okay, pain which lingers and recurs. Repressed pain which lingers, right? Absolutely. Doesn't resolve. The overflow of challenges beyond our limit. Yeah, that's a great word. Overflow. That's exactly right. Thanks, Craig. Disruption of emotional or physical safety. Yeah, shattered self. There's a disruption, which almost leads to the overflow. Disruption. Okay. Which leads to overflow, shattered, or sometimes repression, right? This disruption can be sudden, right? Verna, absolutely. It can be sudden, unexpected, adverse events, sudden disruption, right? Overwhelm, overflow, overwhelm, right? Absolutely. And then lack of safety, right? No safety, totally. Acute, right? So there's a sudden disruption, it can be acute, right? Frequently it is acute. Physical, mental, reaction, right? So some of these are the reactions. Reaction is kind of the physical reaction, which might be like shattering, kind of. And there's also mental reactions, right? There's different kinds of internal introjects, negative self-talk, like thoughts of I'm not safe, right? A life-altering experience, yeah, acute sudden disruption, it's life-altering, right? Totally. Core of my being is disturbed, right? Yeah, life-altering at the core, right? All the way to the core. Yeah, totally. The aftermath of a wound, right? Yeah. So it's almost like the pain that lingers, the wound that lingers, right? Yeah, the belief system that gets shattered. Yeah, so that points to like the mental, right? There's a mental reaction. I thought things were like this, boom, my mind just got kind of blown, right? But maybe not in a good way. Like everything I thought I knew is not, right? Responsive when stimuli is too much. Yeah, that's a very frequent phrase, right? Oh, the phrase is something like too much, too fast, too soon, right? It's a very common understanding. It's like, oh, this was too acute, too sudden, you know, it was too much, too fast, too soon, right? It's, yeah, totally. Okay. I'll just share that the flip side of that is sometimes like too little, too late, right? I needed help, but nobody was there, right? Too little, too late, okay? Yeah, presence of pain, but still in the stage of traumatic events seems facing trauma turning. Yes, I just want to acknowledge the deep truth of what you mentioned, comfort, right? Like there's trauma, and then there's a way in which sometimes society continues to inhibit our access to love, right? Or access to support, and that being tragic, right? You know, kind of, so yeah, so that's really true. Thank you, comfort, for that. The remaining physical sensation of or reaction after an event when you were in danger, right? So the physical reaction, right? Okay, so this is great. Altering your sense of safety, all these things, grief and loss that does not end. Absolutely, yes, Meryl, yeah, comfort. Subjective and an incident you experience that causes a reaction. Yes, overwhelm, right? Back to overwhelm. Something, wow, there's so much wisdom here. It's something that happens that's beyond the capacity of your resources to handle. Okay, that's a kind of a that's a great answer, and it's a little sophisticated. So let's go ahead and actually draw out. So all of this is all beautiful. Everything that you're writing is so valid and true. And in the field of somatics, there's a particular diagram that is commonly drawn, which frequently looks like this, where this axis is nervous system activation. This is the somatic perspective. And just so I get the temperature of the room again, let me just pause for a moment and ask, how many folks here have seen this image before, or the concept of the window of tolerance in the context of trauma therapy? Just go ahead and raise your hand. Who has seen it before? So a number of people have. And for whom is this new? Raise your hand. Okay, so this is new. So this is actually one of the foundational conceptualizations of trauma from a somatic perspective. So this is almost like, okay, this is really important to know and understand, just to get the roadmap for how to heal trauma, okay, and how to work with collective trauma as well. Okay, so let's talk about this just a moment. Yeah. So there's a fellow named Dan Siegel. He's a psychiatrist affiliated with UCLA. He's a UCLA. And he came up with this idea called the window of tolerance. Okay, the window of tolerance. Okay. And the idea is this. Now, this is the window of tolerance, this space right here. And the higher up you go in this direction, the more activated your nervous system might be, okay? Oh, I've raised my hand. I didn't realize that. That's so funny. Probably I did that as an example to you all, which is fine and funny. I'll keep my hand raised because I can't figure out how to lower it right now. Oh, let's see. Okay. Done. Thanks, Andy. All right. So yeah. So some people have it's similar to the window of resilience. Sometimes that's called the range of resilience, right? But basically, the idea is so I'll plot this out. So pretend this is me here, right now. I'm feeling kind of calm and at peace. All right. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go give a workshop talk to some lovely people at Reimagine, beautiful community. And I'm feeling a little excited. Maybe my nervous system gets a little bit more activated. I'm happy, but I'm also a little anxious. And then it's like, oh my gosh, there's a question I don't know the answer to, but actually I figured out the answer to it. And now, I'm doing okay. There's a lot of people, but people seem friendly. And then now I've completed it, and now I'm feeling a little bit better, and now I'm more relaxed, and everything is fine and dandy. So the idea is my nervous system got a little bit activated, it went up, and then it came back down, and no harm, no foul, no trauma. It was just like me getting a little bit my nervous system was activated, but I stayed within my window of tolerance, okay? I stayed within my window of tolerance, and nothing horrible happened, okay? Now that isn't always the case, okay? Because sometimes we go out of our window of tolerance, right? Sometimes something happens that is acute, sudden, disruptive, right? That alters our life, right? Where it's an overflow. It's like too much, too fast, too soon, right? And our self starts to get shattered. So what ends up happening looks a little bit more like this. So everything's fine as long as we're within our window of tolerance. But if we go above our window of tolerance, right, into this region here, this region above the line here. Okay, let's just map out what that looks like. So here I am. Maybe I'm, I don't know, giving a talk, but then I feel like, oh gosh, there's something happening at work or my other role, and I need to take care of somebody who's sick or not well. I'm getting lots of text messages on my phone. I'm still supposed to give this talk, but I also need to get back to the person in the hospital. I can't do both things at once. All of a sudden, there's a voice message left, and I see, something maybe overwhelming or horrible, or like, maybe somebody dear to me passed away, or maybe who knows, right? All of a sudden, it's too much, too fast, too soon, right? It's too much, too fast, too soon. I go outside of my window of tolerance. I'm in overwhelm, and I'm no longer within my range of resilience, my window of tolerance. I'm into this overwhelm, and my self has started to get shattered. There's something, I'm now potentially in the domain of my body can't take it anymore, right? I start forgetting where I am. I might maybe become disoriented. Maybe I become fixated on the flashing light on my phone. Maybe I lose touch with my body, right? Maybe there's a sense of numbness, right? That or self-shattering that occurs. Okay, so the first notion about what trauma is trauma is when we're out of our window of tolerance. Okay, when something happens that throws us out of our window of tolerance. Okay, now what I want to say is, and this is credit to somebody named Resmaa Menakem, who is a Trinidadian American scholar, theorist, and practitioner who's done a lot of work with collective trauma. And he has this understanding of what he calls HIP theory, H-I-P-P, okay? And the understanding is that trauma can happen, like something occurs. There's some inciting event that occurs that sends me typically outside of my window of tolerance into the trauma zone, right? But one of his, and he's made many great contributions, but one of is what he calls HIP theory, which is the idea is that, well, that trauma isn't just something that happened to me maybe right now. It can be also historical trauma, okay? Intergenerational trauma, persistent institutional trauma, right? And then there's also personal trauma. It's not that personal trauma isn't important. It is, but it's one of kind of a whole field of things that can cause us to be exposed to more activation, right? Like if there's a history of whatever it might be, oppression, racism, systematic disenfranchisement, et cetera. Or if there's intergenerational trauma, something that happened in the generations above that still lingers in the family, things that are unspoken, trauma that occurs in the family. Or if there's ongoing institutional trauma, right? Being exposed to institutions that don't see us, validate us, et cetera. That all of these things, in addition to personal, can also throw us out of our window of tolerance, okay? So that, and some people have incredible personal trauma that sends them out there. And then some people are holding other layers or levels, right, as well. So just wanting to acknowledge that, that this involves, like, trauma isn't always just, okay, this happened to me now. Sometimes things that kind of are almost inherited or passed down through the collective. Okay. So there we go. So but the basics are that we get sent over our window of tolerance, over our range of resilience, and then we're in this trauma zone. Okay. Now there's different physiological things that happen when we're up here. Okay. There's a lot, all those different traumas occurred during the fast. Yes, the pandemic, absolutely. The pandemic can be, for many people, very traumatizing, overwhelming. Okay. Yeah. So the first concept is the window of tolerance. Now, the next and most important concept within somatics is something called resourcing. Okay. And I'll resourcing. Okay. Resourcing. So here's the idea. Okay. So this is the problem. Here I am, I'm trying to live and be in the world, but something pops me out of my window of tolerance, and I'm basically thrown into a trauma state. Okay. Resourcing, and I'm going to just draw it with little R boxes here. Okay. So resources in the field of somatic psychology are anything that help us raise our window of tolerance, right? Okay, and there's a million different things that could be resources. It's different for each person, okay? But resources are things that help expand our window of tolerance, okay? So resourcing, resources, okay, that's the commonly utilized term for it in somatics. Okay. Now, what might be some examples of resources, things that could help you not shatter or not go into overwhelm or overflow? Okay. And just inviting us to, yeah, nature, right? So resources could be nature. Nature could be a resource. Nature could be a great resource for some people. It's like people aren't safe, but the earth is. I think that's part of why people who care about the climate and climate justice, it's like you're not just caring about the earth, it's like caring about something that I'm interconnected with, right? Almost like talking to a friend. It can be like nature, it can be a friend, even like, yeah, community. Right, including this one. Absolutely, that can be a resource, right? Totally. Focusing on things we can control as opposed to things we cannot. Yeah, I love that, the serenity prayer, right? Like, okay, like kind of feeling my own agency. Okay, I have agency in the world, right? Good connections, connection, totally, right? Absolutely, all of these things. Connections with romantic friends, breath work, massage, absolutely. So breath work. Okay. Massage. Okay. Totally. Therapy, yoga, art. Okay. I'm just going to write these down here. Therapy, yoga, art. Totally. Movement. All of these things are great. Music, right? Healing soundscapes. Oh, both had that idea at the same time. Community, right? Okay. Mindfulness, meditation, becoming spatially aware of where I am. Yeah, that's sometimes they call it orientation. Yeah, becoming spatially aware. The idea behind that is like, okay, I am here in this room. I am not there then, right? I'm here in a place that's relatively safe. I'm not back there when I was being abused, or, I'm here now. This is where I am now. Okay. That's great, Michelle. Psychotherapy, journaling, right? Yeah. Fact checking, right? Fact checking. It's like, is this true? Am I really in threat? Okay. Right. Breathing, talking, right? Writing. Okay. All of these things, these are great. Religion, spirituality can be big. Religion for many people, depending, but yeah. Reiki, an empathetic person, yeah. Friend, therapy, friends. Okay. Family support, counseling, regulating breathing, absolutely. Physicality of your body. Quiet, absolutely. For many people, that's settling. Activities that activate other parts. Crafting, totally. Qigong, great. Put that under movement. Okay. Grounding meditations, dance, walking the dog, animals, yes, yes, yes. Singing bowls, okay, music, okay, hearing my breath. Discuss the concept of agency, okay. Yeah, agency means I have the ability to choose my own destiny. Like I have the freedom to do what I want to do, right? Many times during trauma, especially for people who've experienced abuse, etc., they feel like their agency has been taken away from them. They weren't able to resist, to say no. And so reclaiming agency can be very healing, right? Or having agency restored, okay? So totally, yeah. Vagus nerve work, totally, yeah. Some of you guys are like super advanced. Okay, self-compassion. All right, so I'm going to introduce an idea. So now you know what resources are. Resources are important idea number 2, right? So the basic idea is, okay, trauma happens when we are above our window of tolerance, okay? For some people, that involves issues that are individual, and sometimes they're issues that are collectively contributed, right? Historical, intergenerational, persistent, institutional trauma, okay? But trauma happens when we are beyond our window of tolerance. Now, how does healing happen then? So that's what trauma is. Healing happens when there's enough resources that re-arrive at the scene, okay? Whether it's enough connection, agency, community, nature, breath work, journaling, art, music, religion, friends, therapy, yoga, all of these things, which raise our window of tolerance, right? And help us be with what previously we couldn't be with and get back down to the other side, right? There's a stuck feeling because what can happen up here is like, I'm feeling something, but I can't feel it. Like it's too much. I can't feel it. It's too much, too fast, too soon. It's like, it's too much, right? But then I feel a friend next to me, or I feel my pet, my dog, right? Kind of licking my face. Oh, that's a resource. It's like, it's there. It's there. I can't be with this. Verna's cat, totally. It's like, I can't be with this. I can't be with this. But there's the support. There's the love, right? There's the presence. And then I can breathe again. And I can tolerate what was previously intolerable and come back down this and get to the other side, okay? This process is called completing the arousal cycle. Completing the arousal cycle, okay? So when you go outside of your window of tolerance, we get stuck up here. That's why it's repressed. There's repressed pain, right? That lingers. Why it lingers is because it gets stuck up here, okay? It's not metabolizable. It's too much, too fast, too soon. I don't know what to do with it. But when the resources come, it's like, oh, okay, I can't deal with this, but now I can because music carries me and gets me and supports me and helps me tolerate or give voice to or words to what I previously couldn't. And now I'm back through to the understood side, or community holds me and understands me and carries me through to the other side. Okay, so that's completing the arousal cycle. So that's the overall shape of the process. Okay, now I want to introduce what I call the 3 boards model. This is less commonly spoken of in the literature. And so let me just check out to see. And who here has heard of the 3 boards model of trauma therapy? Okay, okay, great. Okay, cool. You guys are going to learn something new. All right, okay, so cool. So here we go. So let's do this. All right, so there's 3 things. There's the surfboard. Okay, there's the keyboard and the boardroom. Okay. And this comes from somebody named Christine Price. She's not famous at all. She was one of my teachers at the Esalen Institute, but it's a way of understanding experiencing trauma. The concept of completing the arousal cycle, that's just to give you guys some names. That's Peter Levine and somatic experiencing. If you ever kind of run into people who are doing that work, somatic experiencing, okay? All right. So Christine Price, the 3 boards, the surfboard. So the first thing you want to check if you're working with somebody who has potential trauma is, are they on their surfboard? Okay. So the idea here is we go through, oh yeah, there you go, Christine Price. Thanks, Andy. You're super fast. We go through the world, and sometimes we are on our surfboard, right? Here I am, and I'm in my experience. I'm here. Like if I'm just giving the talk, I am not thrown off the wave. It's like, okay, it's intense, but I'm with it, right? I'm here with you. Okay, I'm riding the wave of experience. Being a surfer, you get that. Okay, good. Okay, it's like, it was intense. It was a big wave, but hey, I rode it. I landed it. I nailed it. And we came back down. We're all good. Okay. Now, but sometimes if it's too much, too fast, too soon, if the wave is too big, I get thrown off my surfboard, right? I go into like what we call, past the tipping point, right? Past the tipping point, past this outside of my window of tolerance, and I get thrown off the surfboard. There's all sorts of physiological symptoms that occur during these states. Some of you probably know some of that. Well, let's just check. I don't know. Who all here is familiar with the term hyperarousal? So a number of people. Okay, for whom is that a kind of a new term, a newish term? Okay, so some people it's a little bit new. Okay, so I'll just kind of briefly headline. I'll briefly headline that there's different phases, okay, that people can go into. They can go into they can go into what we call hyperarousal, where their heart rate starts to go really fast, where their palms get really sweaty, adrenaline's coursing through their veins. It's frequently called the fight-flight response. Okay, and it's a symptom of trauma. Okay, somebody might be in a trauma state if they're in this persistent, sometimes hyperanxiety, right? A panic attack would be kind of being in hyperarousal, right? So that can be a sign of a history of trauma, right? So hyperarousal, kind of fast heart rate, all those things, okay? There's also what we call, let's see, how do we draw this? There's different ways of drawing it. Sometimes when we're in hyperarousal for too long, okay, our nervous system goes into overwhelm and we get thrown into what we call hypoarousal, okay? Hypoarousal, which is freeze, hypoarousal, okay? And that's a freeze response. It's called the dorsal vagal response. It's basically sometimes people faint, sometimes people go numb, they lose consciousness, they lose agency, all of those things. So there's different potential responses there, okay? So we get thrown off our surfboard either into hyperarousal or hypoarousal. So that's one of the things you want to check if you're working with somebody, okay? The next thing you want to notice is how's their keyboard doing, okay? The concept of the keyboard, it's a piano keyboard, not a computer keyboard, but just like a keyboard has certain notes that can be played. If anybody, you can save the chat. But if there are certain notes on a keyboard that can be played to make up a full scale, some people have certain keys on their keyboard that are missing, okay? Certain keys can't be played. It's like anger. No, we don't get angry, or I don't get angry, or anger is too scary. Or sadness. No, I'm not sad. I don't feel sad. I never feel sad, right? I don't let myself feel those things, okay? Sometimes certain keys on a person's keyboard can get stuck. Now, let me go ahead and draw this out a little bit more. Let's do it this way. Okay, so we're going to, let's see. All right, this diagram here that we just drew, okay? If we zoom in on this, so this is the window of tolerance again. If we zoom in on this, it actually is, it looks like this, at least according to somatic theory. So this is something called Cyban. This is from Peter Levine's work, Somatic Experiencing. So S stands for sensation, okay? I stands for image, okay? B stands for behavior. A stands for affect. And M stands for meaning, okay? So the idea is if we zoom in on this little dot, it's actually not a dot, it's a pentagon of, which is, these are the constituents of experience. Constituents of experience, okay? So basically what that means is, okay, here I am, and maybe I'm giving a talk to the lovely community at Reimagine. And as I'm doing it, I can sense in myself, like, okay, I can feel my butt on the chair and my feet on the ground. That's a sensation. I can sense my affect. I feel relatively happy, maybe a little excited, you know, people seem engaged. Sherry's looking and taking notes diligently, you know, and yeah, so people are here. I can see people. Michelle's smiling. Okay, I can see images. I'm doing something. I'm kind of moving my pencil up and down and making a little check mark, so I know what I'm doing. I can make meaning of it. Okay, I'm teaching a class right now. I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on. Okay, so that's the constituents of experience. These are the keys of the keyboard. Keys on keyboard. Okay, these are the keys on the keyboard. All right, SIBAM make up our experience keyboard. Now, so far so good. Now during trauma, what happens? So I get thrown off my surfboard. What does that actually look like? It actually means these constituents of experience which hold together actually start to break apart a bit, okay? So sensation, affect might separate apart from meaning or behavior, right? So for example, here I am, I'm talking, but there's an emergency call that comes through. I can't deal with it. And then all of a sudden some horrible news happens and then my body goes numb. Sensation just left the building, okay? It fragmented out, right? So it's separated out. And that key is no longer playable right now on the keyboard for me, at least at this moment. That key went numb, okay? So sensation got separated out. I might start to lose my sensation. I might start to lose my meaning. I might start to forget, wait, where am I? What am I actually doing? What I'm supposed to say? Who are you? What's going on? During trauma, that happens. So these constituents of experience start to break apart. I might start to get really fixated on behavior. It's like, I have to check my phone. I have to check my phone, or I can't move. I might get frozen, right? So that might fragment off. I might get stuck on certain images. I might get tunnel vision. I might not be able to see. So all of these things start to break apart, okay? The constituents of experience separate, okay? So that's the keys on the keyboard. Okay? So when you're working with trauma, notice and see what keys on the keyboard are or aren't available for the person. They might point you in the direction of trauma, okay? And then how do we heal? Okay, so that's the notion of the boardroom, okay, the boardroom. So the idea here is if we allow ourselves to listen to sensation, to these different fragments as if they were people. This is like a head and feet, like as if they were people in a boardroom, each with their own important voice or contribution to give to the room that is us, right? It's like the numb body is shut down, but if we say, hey, you're important, I want to hear your voice. If we allow enough resourced support to come online and say, hey, kind of body that went away into hiding, you are an important part of this room. Your voice is needed in the boardroom, or it needed in our shared room that we hold together. I want to hear you. And the numb voice might start to shake or tremble, right? There might be sensation that starts to feel maybe at first empty, but then it might start to, who knows, right? Sometimes it's the sensation comes back online and then the leg starts to shake. Like there's a certain behavior that begins, like the sensation comes back online, the behavior starts to connect up with it. All of a sudden I find that I'm crying and I don't know why, but I listened to the sensation, and then a behavior that might have gotten cut off starts to allow itself to come through. And then the feeling that might have gotten cut off starts to allow itself to reconnect, right? And then I see kind of the images, right? It's like, oh yeah, my leg's shaking. I wanted to scream or shout, or like to tell my sister I'm going to be there. okay? Or I see the images of the on the phone, right? The boardroom. The boardroom is this idea that each fragment up here, if you treat it as if it has the dignity of a person, right? This is supposed to be like a little head and then feet now, as if it has a voice that can be listened to and heard. It will tell you something. And in the speaking, these parts can start to find each other again and reconnect and then complete and come all the way back through to the other side, okay? The sensation which was isolated starts to flow into the behavior, which starts to flow into the affect, and everything starts to piece together. It's like, oh, I know what it was. I wanted to be there, but I couldn't be there. And I'm struck with grief, but I can finally now feel, right? And then the arousal cycle completes and I come back to the other side, okay? Does that help, Kay? Hopefully, I imagine. I don't know if you're there, but give me a sign if you did. Thumbs up, okay. Gayatri, okay, cool, awesome. Okay, great. So, so that's the boardroom. Okay. Now, all right. So there's the three boards. So the surfboard, right? Am I on my board or thrown off? What keys have gotten kind of pushed off? And then kind of, can I let all the parts speak that want to speak? Okay. Now, okay. So I'll just name, because it's also very important for trauma therapy, what we call the three phases. There's the three boards and then the three phases of trauma treatment, of trauma therapy. Okay. Yeah, it's totally an IFS similar model. So yeah, totally IFS related, adjacent. Gestalt, ego state therapy. The original ego state therapy was, well, I don't know original, but like, you know, there's ego, superego, id, there's transactional analysis, there's Gestalt, psychosynthesis, but yes, thank Eric, absolutely, 100% IFS. So three phases of trauma therapy. Phase one, install resources. Install resources. Okay. So what that means is we need, before we actually work with the fragments of memory, we need to make sure that the person is going to be able to be supported, right? So, you know, install resources, phase one, okay? Phase two, work with trauma memories, okay? Now, this is basically, let's take these fragments and start to listen to them, care for them, and support them with resourced care, nurturance, love, support, okay? There's hundreds of different kinds of resources. Some of them are idiosyncratic to a person, but we listed a lot of them, which kind of are great to use, okay? And then once you work with the trauma memories, hopefully these memories complete, they bind together again, and then the idea is to reintegrate to the world, if possible. Okay. Oh yeah, right. There's my Psychology Today blog. Great, wonderful. So the thing about working with trauma memories is that sometimes there's a distinction between implicit memories and explicit memories. Explicit memories are like, oh, I remember yesterday I had a ham sandwich for lunch, right? I remember New Year's Eve, I was celebrating in Colorado, okay? So I have that. That's an explicit memory. It feels like a memory. Not all memories are like that. Some memories are, at least according to somatic psychology, like, oh, there walked somebody by who was wearing sunglasses and looked a little bit, well, just a tall guy with sunglasses who looked at me and I didn't know why, okay? And all of a sudden I felt tight in my throat, maybe, and tight in my stomach, okay? And I might think, well, that's kind of weird. That's a strange thing to feel. It's possible that that might be a memory. It might be my body remembering something that occurred to me that I haven't fully metabolized yet, okay? So memories, so for example, these fragments can break apart where I have an image and a meaning bound together. And that's basically an explicit memory. It's like, oh, I remember seeing this and I remember where I was and what was going on. It's an explicit memory. But some memories are a sense fragment, sensation and affect. It's just like, oh, something happened and my body has this feeling echo, right? Okay, so that can be an important piece. Okay. All right. So let me just check on the comments. So do I inform a client of these 5 constituents or I keep them to my own observations? Right. You can. I typically don't, but I just keep tabs of it in my own mind, right? Like what's present, what's absent, right? And I keep trying to invite them into, is there a sense that happens with that? Oh, well, what are you feeling? You know, or helping to provide meaning for them. Yeah, thanks, Gayatri. And then in some communities, trauma involves violence and a lack of attention to healing for long periods of time, right? In your view of description of trauma, they seem very useful to highly stressed, rather than what I think of trauma, that war, violence, and abuse that cause PTSD, not part of somatic psychology. Yeah, so there's challenges relative to chronic, right, circumstances, right? Chronic circumstances and long periods of time. Frequently, what you want to do, like there's this saying, and maybe I'll pull up this, there's a quote. What is that? So yeah, Stacey Haynes does great work with that. So the quote is from Rupi Kaur. And let me pull it up here because I think it might speak to what you're talking to or talking about. Let's see, I think it's this one. Okay. So the statement is, do not look for healing at the feet of those who broke you, right? And it's true. There are things that happen that are horrible, and where there's kind of long-standing disregard, right, for healing, right? And I think what we want, at least my sense, is that finding pockets and places where there can be, and maybe I'll try and draw it on this, right? Where there's lack of attention, because there's, let's see, love that quote. Yeah, right. So there's the things that are triggering, which I'm going to just kind of draw down here. Okay. There's the things that trigger us, right? Which might be kind of the kind of negligent or disregarding kind of world, right? There is that. And if we try to go to that world seeking healing, it's not going to be there, right? But maybe we can find affinity groups, communities that do understand us, contexts, maybe like safer places, right? Where we can receive people who get our experience, understand our experience, can cry with us, be with us and hold us, even as that the world out there happens, right? Where we can get pockets of support that can help us, at least within certain isolated contexts, complete, and at least within those environments, come back to some integration within those contexts, recognizing that sometimes there is a background environment that doesn't allow us to experience the full extent of healing in the full environment that we would wish for. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, no wonder. No, my pleasure, my pleasure. Okay. So, yeah. So, all right. So what I think I'd like for us to do next is actually, because we are a collective here, right? With each of us coming from different backgrounds and histories and experiences, and maybe our traumas, maybe our experiences of collective trauma that we've held in our hearts and had a hard time finding our way through with, okay? And one of the gifts of community, just like I think so many of you mentioned, is that it can also potentially be a supportive resource. Okay? So what I'm going to invite is for us to think about, let me see if I can find this. Well, let's look at the following quotes and then do a little exercise practice. Just a sec. There you are. Okay, so here we go. Okay. All right. Sometimes I don't feel very brave, said the boy. That was very brave of you to say, said the horse. Sometimes I don't feel very brave, said the boy. It was very brave of you to say, said the horse. Let's keep going. What's the bravest thing you've ever said? Asked the boy. Help, said the horse. Yeah. Sometimes the bravest thing to do is to say how you feel, said the horse. I'm frightened, said the boy. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, said the horse, you need to be reminded that it's courageous to have a soft heart, and you are spectacular because of it. Okay. So we're going to do a little exercise here, and I'm going to invite you to notice how you're feeling as you do this practice. But the question I want you to sit with is, if you were to make a sign about something you normally would want to hide, what would it say? And just notice it. You don't have to write it out loud, but just notice it. And we're going to watch a video of people who are doing this as an example of what I think collective healing, because there's collective trauma, and then there's us. Each of us have had perhaps some measure of trauma. And then there's a potentiality for collective healing. So let's watch this video, and then we'll do the practice exercise and see how that goes. All right. Okay, so this is from Mikey Parker. And let me make sure we got the audio. We got the audio. And we're sharing the right thing. Okay, here we go.
If you were to make a sign about something about yourself that you would normally want to hide, what would it say?
I'm afraid I'm not doing what else can say. Enough with my suffering.
Compassionate eyes can rip your soul from your seas. As people lie down with no water to drink. This is a crazy taste of reality, and all of dies, all of breathe, all of dies, all of breathe.
There was a lot up there. I didn't get it. I short lived my own life.
We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out of your soul. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out of your soul. Hey.
I've been in a dark place too.
Open your eyes to the sight. A million blessings disguising their light. The darkness in the world is real. Have right action, stand on your feet. No matter what path we choose, keep on circling the fracture or moon. I want people stand up and unite. Everything is sacred, everyone is sacred. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out of your soul. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out. When we look inside, yeah, we see this ember. We know this light inside is our love. When we look inside, yeah, we see this ember. We know this light inside is some child. We're imitating stars that move across the shimmer. We know this light inside is our love. When we look inside and polish the mirror, we know this light inside is our love. When we look inside, yeah, we see this ember. We know this light inside is our love. When we look inside, yeah, we see this ember. We know this light inside is some child. We're imitating stars that move across the shimmer. We know this light inside is our love. When we look inside and polish the mirror, we know this light inside, yeah. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out of your soul. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out of your soul. We gotta rise up, oh, we gotta stand up tall. Don't let this world lock you out. Don't let this world lock you out. Don't let this world lock you out.
I'm glad you guys are here with us. I am.
Of your heart.
Okay, yeah. So just allowing that to echo inside you for a moment. And here's the invitation. If you were to, yeah, powerful and emotional. The invitation is for us as a community, as a collective, if you want, and this is completely optional, but if you were to make a sign about something you normally want to hide, what would it say? And you can write it on a piece of paper if you like. If you feel moved, you're welcome to write it in the chat. You do not have to. This is completely optional. If there's something, there's the invitation just to explore what would it be like, perhaps, just noticing in your body. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And allowing yourself to continue to breathe and feel as you think and maybe write. We'll give us about a minute or two to do so. Yeah. I'll just play the music in the background as we listen, as we do this.
What would it say?
So I'm just reading what people are writing.
Compassionate eyes can rip your soul from your seats. Those people are down.
I'm just reading, and allow yourself yourself to read what comes up in the chat.
Crazy taste of reality and all of dying.
And just breathing in with the person as you read it, right?
All of dying.
It's not my fault.
All of breathe.
I don't know how to do
There was
this.
a lot up there. I didn't get it. I short-lived my own life.
We gotta rise up.
I'm afraid that I will never experience what it's like to be fully loved down to the marrow of my bones. Oh.
Let this world lock you out of your soul. We gotta rise
Feel
up. Oh,
that with you, Michelle.
stand
Thank you.
up tall. Don't let this world
Verna, I'm afraid that I don't matter
of your soul.
because I'm poor and disabled because I need extra help. So just feeling that. Thank you, Verna. Wow. It's almost, and I'm just going to, I don't know. If you, I'm just feeling, let me stop the share and just, maybe this is where we just read and breathe with each other as we see and read what we are together. Right. Tracy writes, stop hurting me, I'm not a bad person. Thank you, Tracy. Right. Rainbow, I'm afraid of being judged for my sensitivity. Thank you. Stephanie, I'm not who you expect me to be. And just letting yourself feel in your body what it's like to be with other people as they're sharing, and what it might be like to feel seen, right? There's all this vulnerability. And then can we find each other again in love? Right? Yeah. So just allowing yourself to be with yourself, to be with each other, and to maybe feel like we're not alone. Right? That's part of the healing that can happen. It's like, here's my lonely, fragmented self that's separated out from the world. But then I find you, maybe community, maybe beloved community, right? And here we are, breathing, being, and sharing together. Okay. All right. So we are at the 90-minute mark here. And we're going to have to come to a close, but I just want to say thank you so much. I know this could be a tender place, but reach out, right? There's so much that can happen when we let ourselves be vulnerable and let ourselves find each other and community again. Yeah, this is super lovely. Also want to just remind y'all that there's the next installation of this. Maybe I'll hand it back to you, Andy, to wrap up and talk about the next session that's upcoming. Yeah.
Dr. Wong, I kind of don't want to let you go. I think many of us here don't want you to go. Your voice, first of all, is so soothing. You've created this space that allowed and enabled all these people to be so vulnerable, to be so open. You're so impressive. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for taking a chance with us and being here. I hope you'll register for the final session next Wednesday, we'll have another wonderful therapist, Rabbi Tirza Firestone, in conversation with Paul Carrillo, who works at Giffords, Gabby Giffords' organization that is trying to end gun violence. It's going to be a remarkable conversation, and we'll have time for breakout sessions and for you all to get to know one another. I also want to call your attention to an event in 2 weeks on May 30th. Thanks to Lily Liu. I don't know if Lily is still here, but one of our most beloved Reimagine community collaborators. It was her idea after the massacres in California that deeply affected the Asian American community for organizing a grief circle. And I hope you can join us for that. The link is in the chat. And thank you to all of you who may have made a donation to Reimagine for this free event. If you haven't, there's a link there for that. I wish everyone a restful day, if it's ending for you soon. And I hope to see you all next week. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, blessings.